Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
This time, we're diving into some ufology material, but with kind of a different angle than just your typical UFO sightings. This one's all about consciousness and ufology.
Yes.
So we're looking at the experiencers.
Exactly.
You gave me a really interesting collection of materials for this one.
I tried to
Yeah, you did a good job.
cover all the bases.
Yeah, so we've got personal accounts.
Yeah.
We've got research papers, some excerpts from books, articles.
Yeah.
And it really does seem like the theme that ties everything together is this focus on the experiencer.
Yes, definitely. It's a real shift in perspective, I think, for ufology.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be all about, trying to get that physical evidence, the nuts and bolts of the spaceships and all of that.
Right.
But now we're seeing a lot more emphasis on the role of consciousness.
Okay, so how does that actually, play out when we're talking about ufology?
Well, it means, taking seriously those people who've had these encounters with non-human intelligence.
Okay.
Taking those experiences seriously and trying to understand them.
These are the experiencers.
Yeah, the experiencers, they're reporting such a wide range of things, from visual sightings to, telepathic communication.
Wow.
Even physical interactions in some cases.
Okay, so instead of looking at, radar blips or blurry photos, we're really trying to understand the human impact.
Yeah, the way these encounters affect people on a personal level.
Right.
Their emotions, their psychology.
Makes sense, because if I saw a UFO, I would freak out.
It would probably rock your world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there are organizations that are doing some really interesting work.
Oh, really?
In this area, like the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Extraterrestrial Encounters, FREE.
Yeah.
They're really, doing research and trying to understand, not just validate the experiences, but to understand the impact on the experiencer.
Yeah, because I would imagine that would be quite difficult to process.
Absolutely. I mean, it challenges our conventional understanding of reality.
Right.
It can lead to, feelings of confusion, disbelief, fear in some cases, but it can also be transformative for people, expanding their sense of self and their place in the cosmos.
Now, I noticed you sent over this model called the Triadic Dimensional Distinction Vortical Paradigm.
Yes.
Or TDVP for short.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit for us?
Well, it was developed by these doctors, Vernon Neppe and Edward Close.
Okay.
And essentially it suggests that consciousness, space, and time
Correct.
are all interconnected across 9 dimensions.
9 dimensions.
9 dimensions.
Okay, my brain hurts a little bit.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah, but how does this relate to UFOs in the experiencers?
Well, the model suggests that, if consciousness exists across multiple dimensions, then experiencers might be tapping into these other realities during their encounters.
Okay.
And that could explain why they're seeing beings that seem to defy our laws of physics, or having these experiences that just seem impossible from our current understanding.
Like that one example you gave of someone seeing almond-shaped eyes behind the human eyes of someone they met.
Yeah.
That one was creepy.
It's a bit unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, that could potentially be the experiencer perceiving for just a moment.
Yeah.
A reality beyond our typical 3-dimensional perception.
That's really wild.
It is.
Okay, so we've got this shift towards consciousness. We've got organizations studying experiencers.
Right.
We've got this mind-bending model.
Yeah.
But what about the actual, stories and stuff? You sent over some pretty crazy anecdotes.
There are some remarkable stories in there.
Yeah.
One that sticks out is this person who, as a child, had recurring dreams.
Okay. Of leaving their body and going up into this massive orange cigar-shaped cloud.
Really?
And they described it as pure joy and wonder. Like they were being drawn towards something extraordinary.
It's interesting how a lot of these experiences seem to happen during childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another story there about someone who, during a near-death experience, was told something super profound.
Yeah.
Like they were being given a glimpse into the future or something.
Right. It's like a higher truth.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a download.
Yeah, it's a common thread in a lot of these experiencer accounts.
Okay.
These encounters trigger a profound shift in their consciousness.
Yeah.
A kind of awakening to a larger reality.
So how do these experiencers even cope with these experiences? It must be so hard to process.
You're absolutely right. There's a real stigma associated with, UFO sightings. contact experiences.
Right.
So people are often afraid to talk about it.
Right. They don't want to be ridiculed. Exactly. They fear ridicule, they fear disbelief. Right. And even when they do share their stories, they face skepticism, from friends, family, even the scientific community.
So it sounds like these materials that you're providing are really advocating for a more open-minded approach.
Yes, a willingness to listen to these accounts without judgment.
Right.
Because if we dismiss these experiences outright, we could be missing out on some really valuable insights.
That's a good point, because it does seem like these experiencers are pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Exactly.
And, speaking of pushing boundaries, these materials delve into some pretty wild concepts.
Oh, yeah.
Like telepathic communication and different ways of perceiving information.
Right. So, instead of just listening for radio signals or looking for spaceships, maybe we need to open ourselves up to other ways of connecting.
So it's not just about, our five senses.
Right.
It's about, maybe other ways of knowing.
Yeah. Exactly. There's discussion of telepathy, information transferred directly mind to mind.
Yeah.
The clair senses, clair cognizance, at least clairaudience.
Okay, now my brain really does hurt.
I know, it's a lot.
But it's fascinating to think about that, maybe our five senses aren't the only way to perceive information.
Right.
And that maybe there are other realities or other dimensions that we just can't even perceive right now.
It really challenges our assumptions.
It does.
And it makes you wonder, what if these experiencers are tapping into these other realities? What if they're seeing something that the rest of us are just blind to?
That is a very mind-blowing thought.
It is.
Speaking of mind-blowing, there's this recurring theme in the materials about the Galactic Federation.
Oh, yes.
Sounds like Star Trek.
It does have a sci-fi ring to it.
Yeah.
It's often described as an alliance of extraterrestrial races working together. Right. And some experiencers claim to have met beings who say they're members of this federation.
And what are these beings like? What do they want?
Well, the descriptions vary a lot.
Okay.
Some people describe benevolent beings, offering messages of peace and guidance.
Right.
Others report encounters that are a little more ambiguous.
Okay.
Even unsettling. So it seems like there are different perspectives.
So even within the ufology community, there's not like a unified
not at all.
idea of who these beings are or what their motivations are.
Exactly. It's not a monolithic field. There are a lot of different interpretations, different perspectives, and a healthy amount of skepticism as well.
So again, it goes back to not just blindly believing what you hear.
Exactly.
But really trying to evaluate the information yourself.
Yes, there's a real emphasis on critical thinking.
Okay.
And discerning, what's true and what's false.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've gone from nuts and bolts UFO sightings to the role of consciousness. This mind-bending TDVVP model.
Right.
And even the Galactic Federation.
We've covered a lot.
We have, but I'm ready for more.
Okay, let's take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment.
Sounds good.
So before the break, we were talking about the Galactic Federation and the different perspectives on it.
Right.
It's interesting because this concept of a Galactic Federation, it's not just something you find in, experiencer accounts.
Right.
Some of those research papers that you sent actually talk about potential historical connections and even governmental connections to this idea.
Now that you mention it, I do remember reading a really fascinating article about a recent statement by a former Israeli space security chief.
Right.
He claimed that humans have been interacting with extraterrestrial races for decades.
That's a big claim.
Yeah, and he even mentioned this Galactic Federation.
Yeah, it definitely sparked a lot of debate.
I bet.
But it does make you wonder, are we on the verge of some kind of major disclosure?
Like, is everything about to change?
Yeah, are we going to find out that we're not alone?
Well, let's move on to another kind of intriguing concept that I saw come up in the materials a lot.
Okay.
And that is the solar revolution.
Ah, yes, the solar revolution.
What is that all about?
Well, it seems to be connected to this idea of a shift in consciousness.
Okay.
A move towards a more harmonious and sustainable way of living.
Okay.
A lot of the sources talked about humanity being at a crossroads.
Okay.
Having to choose between, continuing down a path of self-destruction or embracing a new way of being.
Okay, so it's more than just like environmentalism or social justice.
Yeah, it's about a change in our values.
Okay.
Our priorities, our understanding of what it means to be human.
So it's like a spiritual awakening, but on a global scale.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
And, a lot of these experiencer accounts talk about this spiritual evolution.
It's like these encounters with non-human intelligence are sparking this transformation.
It's like a catalyst.
And then that kind of ripples outwards to the collective.
Exactly. It's a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
And, it makes you think, what is the role of these encounters in our evolution? Are they random or is there a purpose?
Now, you mentioned that the solar revolution is about a collective shift.
Yeah.
But how do we actually get there?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
But materials do give us some clues.
Okay.
They talk about the power of unity, collaboration, compassion.
So it's like we all need to work together.
Yeah, we need to move beyond this individualistic mindset and embrace a more collective approach to solving problems.
Right, because it seems like the problems that we're facing today are so big and so complex.
They are.
That we can't possibly solve them on our own.
We need to work together.
We do.
One of the materials even mentions something called the 10 Commandments of the Golden Age.
Oh, yeah. I remember those in that research paper about telepathic communication.
Yeah, that's the one.
Like these commandments were received telepathically.
Yeah, supposedly by a group of researchers back in the 70s.
Really? Wow.
And they're supposed to, outline a path for human evolution and spiritual enlightenment.
Do you remember what any of them were?
Well, one that I remember is this idea that genuine human beings will undertake the entire power of the universe.
Oh, that's a very bold statement.
It is pretty bold.
It's suggesting that we have so much more power.
Yeah, that we have this untapped potential.
But also a lot of responsibility.
Right.
It's not just about, achieving some utopia.
Yeah, it's about the personal growth.
Right.
And transformation that's necessary to make that future possible.
Okay.
It talks about developing our inner potential, cultivating compassion and wisdom.
So it's like inner work.
Yeah, it's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
So that we can then contribute to a better future for everyone.
Exactly. And, it's interesting because this emphasis on personal responsibility comes up in a lot of the other sources, too.
Okay.
Even the ones that don't talk about the 10 Commandments.
So it's like a recurring theme.
Yeah, it's this idea that each of us has a role to play in this evolutionary process.
It's empowering to think that, we're not just passive observers.
Right.
We're active participants in this cosmic drama.
We're co-creating our destiny.
We are.
But I can see how it would also feel a bit daunting.
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure.
It is. Yeah. Like the weight of the world is on our shoulders.
But thankfully, we don't have to do it alone.
No, exactly. The materials also talk about the importance of community.
Right.
Supporting each other on this journey.
Yeah.
There's strength in number.
And speaking of shared experiences and guidance.
Yeah.
One of the materials mentioned something called a Mission Rama.
Oh, yes, Mission Rama.
Can you remind me what that's about?
Sure.
It's a little fuzzy.
So Mission Rama is presented as this extraterrestrial contact program that started in 1974 in Peru. Wow. And according to the source, a group of people received a telepathic message from a being who claimed to be from Ganymede.
From Ganymede?
One of Jupiter's moons.
Wow.
And this message announced the beginning of a contact program to help humanity evolve and reach a higher understanding.
So this Mission Rama is like another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's another aspect of this shift in consciousness that we've been talking about.
And then there's this other concept that I need some clarification on.
Okay.
And that is the vast, active, living intelligence system of Earth.
Yes, another mouthful.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, from what I understand, it's this idea that there's a kind of cosmic network. Information and energy that permeates the planet.
It sounds kind of like the Akashic Records.
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities there.
Okay.
And, the material suggests that this system is actually playing a role in guiding our evolution.
It's a very fascinating concept, but I have to admit my brain is starting to hurt a little bit.
It is a lot to take in.
We've got galactic federations, solar revolutions, 10 commandments from outer space, cosmic intelligence networks.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But, in the midst of all these mind-blowing concepts, I keep coming back to, what are the practical implications?
Right. Like, what does this mean for us?
Exactly.
How can we actually apply these ideas in our everyday lives?
Well, I think for starters, it encourages us to be more mindful, more aware of our thoughts, our actions.
And how we impact the world around us.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know, it invites us to see ourselves as part of something larger.
So it's like recognizing that we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And that we're all part of this, web of life.
Exactly. And, it also encourages us to be more open-minded, more willing to consider possibilities that might seem far-fetched or even impossible from our current limited perspective.
A step outside of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
Challenge our assumptions.
Challenge our assumptions.
Okay.
Be open to the unknown.
Which brings us to another concept I saw in the materials.
Okay.
New thinking aloud.
Yes. It's a call to break free from, limiting belief systems and outdated ways of thinking.
So it's not about, accepting everything we read.
No.
But it's about engaging with these ideas.
Yeah.
Critically.
It's about thinking for ourselves and coming to our own conclusions.
And really, this whole deep dive has been about that.
It has.
We're exploring these new ideas.
Right.
Challenging our understanding of reality.
Yeah.
And opening ourselves up to possibilities we never even considered before.
Exactly.
So it's an adventure.
It is an adventure. An adventure of the mind and spirit. A journey into the unknown.
And like any good adventure,
requires a sense of wonder. Yeah.
A willingness to embrace uncertainty.
And maybe even a little bit of courage.
Maybe a little bit of courage.
Well, I think we've reached another good stopping point.
Okay.
For our deep dive. We've covered the solar revolution.
Yeah.
10 commandments from outer space.
From outer space.
This vast, active, living intelligence system.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
Full of intriguing concepts and thought-provoking ideas.
And I'm sure there are many more surprises waiting for us.
I'm sure.
In the next section.
As we continue to delve into these materials.
So let's take a quick break and come back refreshed and ready to uncover even more insights in just a moment.
So welcome back to our deep dive into ufology and consciousness.
Yes.
We've been through a lot of really interesting concepts.
Wow.
Experiencer accounts.
Right.
Telepathic communication.
Yeah.
Even these cosmic intelligence networks.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind throughout this whole conversation. And that is skepticism.
Yeah.
Because I'm imagining some of our listeners out there might be thinking like, wow, this is...
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And how do we know what to believe?
Right.
There's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah, there is.
And sensationalism around ufology. So it's natural to be skeptical.
Right.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. I think healthy skepticism is important.
Yeah.
When approaching any kind of extraordinary claim.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Yeah, how do we sift through all the noise and figure out what's worth paying attention to?
Right.
Well, one of the sources actually suggested a really interesting framework for evaluating any claim, whether it's about UFOs or anything else.
Okay.
And it talked about looking for internal coherence, external correspondence, and functional adequacy.
Okay. Break that down a little bit.
Okay. So internal coherence basically means, is this claim logically consistent? Right. Does it make sense within its own framework?
So it's not contradicting itself.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
External correspondence, that means looking for evidence from outside sources.
So does it line up with what we already know?
Yeah. Does it fit with, established knowledge? Or does it kind of go against everything we think we know?
Right, okay.
And then functional adequacy, this one's interesting.
Okay.
It's basically asking, is this claim livable?
Okay.
Can I actually apply this to my life?
Without causing, problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or contradictions.
Right. So it's not just about, what sounds good or what appeals to our emotions. It's about what actually holds up under scrutiny.
So we need to think critically.
We do.
We need to evaluate the information.
Yes.
And we need to think about the implications.
Yes, very important.
Before just, jumping to conclusions.
Exactly.
And I think this is good advice, not just for, ufology.
Oh, absolutely.
But for life in general.
Yeah, for anything.
There's so much information out there.
There is so much information.
We're bombarded with it constantly.
We need those critical thinking skills.
We do.
More than ever.
Yeah.
But, beyond the critical analysis, there's also, I think, a personal element to this.
Okay.
We need to be honest with ourselves about our own biases, our own preconceptions, because what we believe about the world
can definitely influence how we see things.
Absolutely.
If we go into it with a closed mind, we're probably going to reject anything
that
challenges those beliefs.
But if we go into it with an open mind, with curiosity, a willingness to consider new perspectives,
who knows what we might discover?
Exactly.
And I think that's really the beauty of doing a deep dive like this.
I agree.
It's not necessarily about finding answers.
Right.
It's about opening up our awareness.
It's about the journey.
It is about the journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, even if we come out of this and we're like, okay, I don't know if I believe all this stuff.
Right.
But just the process of even exploring these ideas can be really enriching.
It can, I agree.
It can lead us to new questions.
Yeah.
New insights.
A deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe.
So I guess the main takeaway is that it's not about the destination.
It's about the journey.
It's about the journey, yeah.
It's about being open to the mystery.
And allowing ourselves to be transformed
by
the process of exploring these ideas.
I love that.
And speaking of transformation, I want to circle back to the solar revolution for a minute.
Okay.
Because I think this idea of a collective shift in consciousness towards a more harmonious way of being, it's something that a lot of people are really longing for.
I think so.
You know, this idea that we can create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.
And a lot of the sources suggest that it's not just a nice idea.
Right.
It's necessary.
It's like we have to.
It's an evolutionary imperative. You know, we're facing these huge challenges.
Climate change.
Yeah. Climate change, social unrest.
Yeah.
Technological disruption.
It's like the old ways of thinking.
Yeah, the old paradigms.
Just aren't working anymore.
We need a new way of being.
A new way of relating to each other.
And to the planet.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, you know, this intersection of ufology and consciousness becomes really interesting. Because if these experiencers are right,
if they are tapping into a larger reality.
Yeah, if they're showing us a more expansive view of consciousness.
Then maybe they're also showing us a new way of being.
Exactly.
A different way of approaching these challenges.
A new path forward.
A new path forward, yeah.
And, you know, even if we put aside the question of whether these encounters are literally true, the themes that come out of them.
The unity, compassion, interconnectedness.
With all of those things, those are the things we need to solve these problems.
They're so relevant.
They are. Yeah. So in a way, you know, whether we believe in extraterrestrials or not, the wisdom that's embedded in these accounts can serve as a guide.
A guide for creating a better future.
I love that. Yeah.
It's about recognizing the potential that we all have.
Yes.
For love.
Yes.
Compassion, creativity.
And using that to create a world
that reflects our best selves.
A world that honors all life.
And the planet.
Beautifully said.
Well, I think we've come full circle in this deep dive.
We have.
You know, we started with the mysteries of ufology.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking about the future of humanity.
And the potential for a major shift in consciousness.
It's been an amazing journey.
It has been.
Full of twists and turns.
And more questions than answers.
Always more questions than answers.
Always, yeah.
And that's okay.
That's the beauty of it.
It is.
It's about sparking that curiosity, that sense of wonder, and encouraging people to keep exploring.
So to all of you listening out there, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
On this incredible adventure.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you learned something new.
I hope so.
Maybe had your mind blown a few times.
Maybe a little bit.
And most importantly, we hope you'll keep exploring these ideas.
Keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind.
And keep searching for the truth.
Until next time.